Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Thursday, the 11th of November, Remembrance Day, comes to you from London. And a lot of different charts tell a picture. I've been posting quite a lot on LinkedIn the last couple of days, and just wanted to share some of these charts with you in case you didn't see the post. So this one is cases per. This is COVID cases in Germany per 100 million per million, and this is the UK. Interesting, just watching how this picture is changing in Central Europe. So this is something that is starting to become a bit of a worry in Europe, and something to keep an eye on. And you can do that through the charts. And that, by the way, comes from the Our World in Data service. So you can configure that in your Updata system. It's this one here, Our World in Data. It's a free service, and you can pull in all the COVID data from all around the world. So it's quite interesting looking at these charts. But this is something I've got an eye on and slight worry. Another one is this one yesterday was the launch of the Rivian electric truck SUV maker. This is the 1 minute chart. So they were up 30% at launch. Here we are with Tesla, and I just did a relative with Tesla. Be very interesting to watch how these two trade together as well. So it's quite key. And then container rates. I've actually got a container coming through the Suez Canal this morning with one of the businesses I'm involved in, and it's been a really tough year when you look at container rates. They've really increased sixfold. So a really big jump there in rates. And of course, this poses all sorts of questions for will we see this feeding into inflation. And yesterday we did see the CPI number coming out in the US, and it's at a 30-year high, 6.2%. So this is starting to really fuel inflationary fears in markets. So this may be the thing that has a really big effect for investors. And this is the 10-year yield overlaid. How long can this divergence between bond yields or interest rates sit with inflation rates? And we've got a few more low months of inflation as the measure to look back 12 months. So it's hard to see this rate actually falling at least for the next few months. So we start by looking at the dollar index, and that of course jumped on those CPI numbers as well, and that has given us that multi-month high kicking up to 12-month high. So we've been bullish on the dollar for a while for a turnaround. We're starting to see that coming through the cloud now. 2022, our belief is that will be the year of the dollar. These downside targets will become less significant, and we will be looking to these upside targets. We've got one here of 6%, and of course yesterday's moves have given us targets to the upside on the short-term chart. Remembering this is my weekly, daily and 60-minute chart, long-term, medium-term and short-term view of the market. So dollar strength is definitely going to be a key thing in the days, weeks and months ahead. Looking at the euro, we're seeing how the euro dived against the dollar. Looking to those downside targets, they were already downside targets that we've given and met. We've got new downside targets, and again we will start to see if we make new lows. We've got some very big downside targets for the euro, so that's going to be very significant. It's a long way away yet, but if we do fall to new lows, that's very scary for the euro. And that's a very long-term call, of course. Against the yen, the dollar sitting at 114, so it's back to a high level there. Again, this is a multi-year high for the dollar, so this is looking very significant. We're not quite multi-year high because we have been higher this last couple of weeks. You can see here in the mini range, but we are holding those levels, which is really key. Sterling fell very heavily against the dollar, so 133.89. We haven't seen sterling at that level nearly for 8 or 9 months now, so that's a low for sterling. This 150 target may not now materialize, and these targets to parity are there, are still a long way away, but something to worry about. Against the euro, the dollar, the sterling actually held flat at 116.82. We have been edging higher all the time, so sterling has had the upper hand. Bitcoin sitting at $65,000, still looking good for these targets, 70 and 72, 83,000 is the ultimate target. That's where we've been looking to If you're trading crypto, you really do need these targets, especially on the short-term charts. The S&P 500 index was down nearly 1% yesterday. No big surprises there, given that CPI number. Will we break below the cloud? This will be interesting. We found cloud support last time we fell through the 60-minute cloud, but on the daily we just held on that cloud. So that will be the interesting level. That's quite a way away. We've got a good few hundred points on the S&P as a buffer. The targets are still 7% higher for the market, but don't forget, it's quite often the case that the last target in a run isn't met. So just keeping an eye on that. We'll watch for the short-term picture and any downside targets developing there. The Nasdaq was similarly hit yesterday as well, so no big surprises there. We are seeing a little bounce this morning though. The S&P future is up 1/3%, the Nasdaq E-mini up 0.5%, so it does suggest markets will recover some of the losses yesterday and break higher. The VIX volatility is also lower, but has been trending up this week to levels in the middle of the range. So the fear index has just climbed a little bit, something to watch. The FTSE future is up 0.2%. The DAX cash in Germany is little changed, so pretty flat there. The US, of course, closed lower after the DAX closed yesterday, and then the futures have kicked in this morning, so we've ended up with a net no change. The CAC Current is up 0.2%, and actually Asia was also stronger, so we saw Japan up 0.3%. The Hang Seng and China, Shanghai index up 1%. Not enough to really change this trend of the medium and short-term charts, but still interesting that we're seeing that recovery there. India was down 1%. We still do have this very long-term target, some 50% higher in India, but for the moment we're just struggling on the short term. The Aussie market was down 0.5%. We'll look at the energy mix in a minute. We've got wheat just holding on to the gains, still pretty bullish on wheat, having had that breakout this week. That's the weekly candle there, and those are the targets, and that will feed through to inflation, of course, as well. The big one is gold. That's continuing to power ahead. We said last week, and we've been saying all the time in charts today, above 1800 is bullish. That was the key level we needed to break, and now we've broken that level. And we did put these charts up on LinkedIn on Friday. We've talked about them in charts today, of course. That break is now looking very positive. Some big upside targets to play for. Keep an eye on those charts if you're a gold bull. And I should disclose I do have some gold shares. So looking pretty bullish there. Silver is up 1.4% this morning. That's a strong rise, putting it back into bullish territory. Precious metals are coming back into play. Platinum also looking strong. One of the funds I work with has got quite an exposure to precious metals, and we've been really waiting for these moves. So that's quite key. Palladium is the weaker one. It has put in a bottom, but has more work to do than the other precious metals. US 10-year yields jumped yesterday. No surprises there on those CPI numbers. We're up 1.57. We went from really the 140s to 157 in a day. So that's a massive jump. We see that on the daily candle there. So these targets of 174, 179, back to the high that we saw this year, are now very much back in play. So it'll be interesting to watch that. This target was given on the yield chart and nearly met, so quite key. The big number to watch is this German bond yield falling below. So the German bond future falling below that 16750 level. That was the level in 2020 was the low. If that happens, we see a great big break in European bond run. So one thing to watch there as well. Looking at the energy mix now, we've got Brent Crude. It did fall quite heavily yesterday. It's bounced a little bit this morning. We went out neutral to clients this morning because we've got targets in both directions on the 1 minute chart. That was the call for today, of course. So that will change if we see any new targets kicking in. The same with WTI. US nat gas, we actually have been bearish the last 2 days to clients. That slide really happened, but we do now have on the 1 minute chart some upside targets. We went neutral this morning. We've got more and more of these targets kicking in, so that's looking more positive for gas. Coal is sitting at 105. That's been falling away. Still bearish below the 60-minute cloud there, and emissions had a good strong day yesterday, and this break is really significant on the emissions charts. This is the daily, the 60-minute and the 1 minute, remembering these multiple time frames. We did have these upside targets this morning, but we felt after yesterday's move that we might just see a pullback for today. Very bullish in the medium and longer term, and waiting for that break of 65. We've got targets that suggest we will get through that level, but for today, looks like we might pull back on emissions. And just looking at the UK emissions chart, we're also just starting to come back through the cloud there, so that's bullish for the UK emissions contract as well. Gas this morning, we actually have gone out to clients with a call. Very tricky call given the moves that we've seen, but the fact that we put in a higher low is bullish. We do need, that's MBP on TTF. This level of 80 is still absolutely hypercritical, and if we just look at that, those are the key levels, and that's what we were really going to just watch for on TTF. This is the Dutch gas contract, the main front month contracts, the main gas contract in Europe. So we're seeing some downside and some upside, but it looks like we might go back towards the top of the range. Again, we put that call out to clients this morning, so keep an eye out for that. German power actually just looking a little bit weaker just now. If you've got OTC data, you're going to have better targets than this, but the key thing is we are seeing a little bit of a fall away, generating a downside target. 119 is the key level, or 118 you can see is the key level there, and also Nordic power is looking a little bit better. We're just crossing through the cloud, and we've got some good upside targets, especially on the quarterly, and we see those targets there playing through. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.